Awesome. We should be live. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Monlux. I'm going to be your host today for Epic Sketch Time. I'm going to introduce myself and then ask everybody to introduce themselves in rotation. You don't have to. You can type something in the chat. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm echoing on my Facebook page. Let me stop that. Sorry, I hope you guys didn't hear that. Okay, great. Um, my name is Mark Monlux. I live in Tacoma, Washington. I'm a freelance illustrator and cartoonist, and I'm going to be working on my project today, which is cleaning up a series of illustrations for a deck of playing cards I'm working on. Bill, you are up next. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I am Bill Morse. I'm a illustrator and cartoonist in Seattle, Washington, and today I'm going to be working on some of the art for my online comic strip Rhapsodies, which you can find
Katie.
at rhapsodies.wpmorse.com.
Hi, I'm Katie C, and I am just going to doodle today because I'm super tired from doing 2 conventions. I know some of you guys are as well, but I'm just going to goof off today. I am from Bonnie Lake, Washington, and I like to draw, and I'm here to hang out.
Roger, if you can hear me, say something. Now, Roger is an animator, and he's been with us many times before, and we also know that he has technical difficulties getting in sometimes. So hopefully we'll see him a little later. And we have somebody new with us. I hope I pronounced your name right. Coda, is that correct? Anyway, welcome Coda to Epic Sketch Time.
And he just texted, I'm a student artist out of upstate New York, and will probably be running through a few warm-ups and rough sketches for composition today.
Awesome, fun stuff. Katie, we are ever so excited to hear about your convention in Texas. I am, because I love horror conventions, and I knew you were going to just blow it out of the park. How was the convention?
Well, I must say my cat earned her cat food for the year. As you all saw, and this is like, just goes to show like art is all about taste. But I had went to Crypticon, sold 3 pieces. That was it, at $5 a piece. I was not totally disheartened because my game was not strong. I knew it wasn't. But I took the observations from people who looked at the art or looked, at the tarot. And then I did more research on, what could have been, what turned people off about the tarot cards that I had created at that con. And it became blatantly obvious to me after reading my art history tarot book and just looking at my own tarot deck, like I was doing everything wrong with the template of the card. Completely reformatted the template of the card and put in my art and drew one more card before, which was this bad boy right here. Well, bad girl, because it's my little kitty, Lucifer. So I did a devil card because I had sold an original devil tarot card based off of Lucy before, that was acrylic and not even as technically good as that one, at a different convention. So I was like, I have to have a devil card. So I sold 20 of that devil card, an 8x10 at $20 a piece. And then sold multiple other cards. I sold a 5-pack of 4x6s because I had 5 cards there for $25 each. Sold 4 of those. So in total, I made $800 off of 5 tarot cards in various formats, a 4x6, 8x10. I sold an original acrylic, which you yourself, Mark, said you liked, and thought that it was very commercial. I sold that in 10 minutes. The minute the showroom floor opened, someone came over and said, "Is that an original acrylic of Candyman?" And I said, "Yes." And they said it's sold. And then, so yeah, I got a lot of great feedback from the people in Texas. There were some amazing artists there. So I feel like I hit my niche there, but I also felt like my presentation for the booth was much better. I felt like the presentation of my cards were better because I refined them. And I learned a lot more about how I want to change the deck and also work on my skill as a artist. Seems like people in Texas really appreciate original art, because I did a couple doodles, like I had some extra picture frames. And so I just sat there with some markers that I brought from home and made a couple original pieces just off of things that I saw people cosplaying, and put them in the frame and said, "Hey, like I made these today and they're handmade," and put a price tag on them, and they all sold. So it made me feel good. It made one of my friends from Texas is an amazing portrait artist. Like he does a lot of celebrities. He's had celebrities, buy the original piece from him so they could have their own original image because they were so nice. And he's like, you do not have to do art like me. He's like, but you do have to do art like you, and in a way that shows your style as an artist. And he's like, you definitely have style. He's like, now your skill level, you're going to continue to get better. He said, but having a style is just as important as having skill. And so he said, he's like, I'm definitely beginning to see your look. And he's like, it's just going to be all about refining your look. And he's like, and people like your look, or they wouldn't buy it. They're not sitting there picking out like all of the little technical problems with the work, because they see an overall picture that's appealing to them and that they can relate to. And I think it doesn't hurt that my Bengal is part tabby, and there's a lot of tabbies out there in the world, because everybody that bought the card either loved tarot or has a honorary cat that has that stare. And so that was good to learn from. So what else do you want to know? I think I went over everything I thought I should share with y'all.
Well, I was
today.
kind of curious. Tell us about how well Tim did, because he was your table partner.
Well, this is the first convention that I outsold him, but part of that was
really? You
yeah.
outsold?
And normally it's the other way around. Like I always say Tim could sell, ice to people in the Antarctica. Like he is, like he's a phenomenal salesman. And he actually is the person who taught me how to sell books. And that's actually how we became friends. And, 10 plus years later, ended up being my husband. So he sold himself to me too. But yeah, he taught me how to sell books. And he was joking to this writer that was there, and he goes, "Well, I guess I'm giving up the writing business." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was telling the guy, he's like, "All I'm going to do is travel around the country with my wife and help her sell tarot cards." So I thought that was a huge compliment from him, especially because he's sold so many books over his writing career. But yeah, he did well. The biggest issue with him with selling books at conventions where you have to fly is the weight. And so we have to make a choice. We both know, unless it's a convention where people absolutely do not read, he will most likely sell the majority of his stock. And we just ran out of stock for him. He had 4 books left when we left, and they were science fiction books. And so the people at Texas Frightmare Weekend are specifically there for the majority of things are horror. And so the sci-fi books were a little hard to sell. He still sold them. He came with 10, so he sold 6 of them, but they were just, that's the reason why they didn't sell. So we were very pleased. We were also very pleased that a lot of people are talking about Texas, and we were very nervous about the mask issue down there because we've all heard, I've seen in social media and on the media, oh, Texas is basically a cesspool for COVID and people aren't wearing their mask. And we were in Dallas, so I don't know how it is everywhere in Texas, but there was only one place we went where the majority of people were not wearing masks. And at the convention, it was just like Crypticon, except they didn't ask for your vaccination or take your temperature, but as far as enforcement of the mask, sorry guys, my dog is being a brat. The enforcement of the mask was the same. And they had a fire marshal there, and they actually had security, police, they had Dallas police officers there. Just making sure people were not disrupting the convention because of the having to wear their mask or being inappropriate, because the owner of the convention had said this is mask mandated and you can leave if you or don't come if you don't want to wear a mask. So I just incredibly pleased overall. Now with all that being said, because we traveled and we were at a convention in general, we will be getting tested for COVID later this week, even if we're asymptomatic, just to be on the safe side, so that, if we leave our house, we're not spreading COVID, and we're not going to see our Tim's family until after we get our test results back. And we know we're COVID free.
And did you guys, I'm assuming you guys did more than just make a table. Did you cover all of your travel expenses or?
Well, our travel expenses are super expensive to go there. So this year, in the past, there have been years where we have just covered our hotel and the table. And the table is like $450, by the way. But we were able to do hotel, table, and one of the airplane tickets. And we go to Texas Frightmare because we love the convention. Like, we've joked, but we're half joked that if we didn't get a table, we would probably go to Texas Frightmare just to go to the convention because it's so much fun. So the fact that we were able to pay for that much was very pleasing. Oh my gosh. So we're already planning for next time, and our goal next time is to cover everything and have profit. And so that's put a lot of pressure on me to deliver a bunch of tarot cards in the next 6 months in art, because it seems like the people at the convention really, there were actually a couple of people who were very aggravated with me because I did not have a business card. I do not have an Etsy shop. And I didn't promote myself more. Like, they were actually frustrated with me. And I was like, listen, I'm not in a space right now where I'm doing that. You can either buy the cards I have here today and wait and see what happens, or it's okay. And I gave a couple of them my Instagram, and I said, but you can't buy anything off there, and I don't post all the time. And they're like, that's fine, I'll wait. I can't wait to see what else you do. So our goal is definitely to start taking the convent. Tim was so excited with the performance of my art. He himself wants to take our conning to the next level. And even with Crypticon next year, he's like, Amanda or Katie, you're not going to do the same that you did this time, just because you have a different presentation, different, your style is changing, and not style, but your skill level is changing so fast that, I think we'll do even better at Crypticon next time. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. We are going to do Grit City in, what is it, 3 weeks?
Yes, Grit City is I'll be at Grit City as well, and that's the first weekend. Well, hold on. No, pardon me. That is the second weekend in October.
Okay.
The first weekend is Lilac City,
Okay.
and Lilac is I think 3 days, or is it 2 days?
I'm not
I think-
sure.
Are you going to Lilac, or are you going to?
No, we are just doing Grit City. I am still a full-time employed person, so until I am not employed, except I have to pace myself. And my health issues. So it's like we're pacing ourselves. But Grit City looks like it's going to be a hardcore old school comic convention. So
Well-
if we make our table, I'll probably be happy.
Grit City has decided to shorten down to 1 day,
Right.
where had been a 2-day show. And I've been with Grit City used to be called Jet City and used to be held inside Seattle. And I've been with it since they first started. And their attendance increased significantly when they were basically, when they first started out in the basement of the Seattle Opera House.
Oh, wow.
Based at the Seattle Science Center. It was like a bunker situation. I mean, yes, it's okay. Most of the time when you're in a convention, there's no windows, but the fact is that there were several tons of concrete over the top of you, so reception was terrible on the cell phones. It was also, it was disheartening because you saw all these lines of people and you thought, oh, they're in to get the convention. But no, it's the same day as the cancer run. So all those
Oh,
lines
gosh.
of people are they're going to be running away from there and not into the convention. So
Right.
there's usually like, anywhere from 2 to 4 different additional events besides Jet City happening at that day. So that made it a little tougher in the area for parking. When they decided to move to Tacoma, they got a much nicer convention space. It was a lot easier on them. And attendance the first year was about the same as it was in Seattle. And then it started picking up. It's not as heavily attended as, say, definitely not as heavily attended as Emerald City, and not as heavily attended as say Rose City in Portland, but it does get a fairly decent turnout. It'll be interesting to see how well they've promoted it this year. Some years they've done a good job of promoting it, other years they haven't. And I think a lot of people are still kind of wondering, is this show happening? Is it not happening? And so I'm a little worried what attendance will be like, but I'm pretty confident because it's just 1 day that people are going to show up and it'll be a pretty good show. It's more of a pop culture convention, I would say, than a comic book convention. You will find that there are several stalls of Silver Age collectors, and a lot of the comic book stores will bring in and set up like you would at a normal comic book convention. But that same crowd of people who want a place to cosplay and to otherwise promote their material or sell stuff, you'll get the same people you see coming to SummerCon, which is held in Puyallup. And you'll see some of the people that come down from Bellingham, especially since this year, there's the Bellingham comic book show decided not to have a convention. So those people will be looking for a new location. I think it'll be a good show. I'm very curious to see what Lilac City, which is in Spokane, Washington, is going to be like. But I think you guys will do good. And I was wondering, while you were down there, I know other people will take their artwork on flash drives and check out. I have one friend that he takes no printed material with him. He goes in a day early, goes to a quick print shop like Kinko's or something, or Minuteman Press, and he'll get all of his stuff printed up the day before and then sell it at the convention. And if he runs out of prints, go back that night and print more. And like you, when I travel, you face the same problem of, gee, how much weight can I take? When I did APE, which is the Alternative Expo, Alternative Press Expo in California, I mailed down a couple boxes of books ahead of time. And my friend that I was traveling with did likewise. And we were going to stay at one of his friends' houses because they said, hey, why don't you stay with us? So we had a place to stay, and that was going to lower down our expense. And then the week before we were going to go, their friend says, I am so sorry, but we're traveling and we can't host you at our house. But what they did was they got us a hotel room instead. So we got a rental car and drove over to the hotel room. But it was because they bought it, they rented it at the last minute. It was like the lowest ranked hotel in the area. And we practically slept in our clothes because we were afraid of getting bed bugs. But I came home with my luggage. I left some space in my luggage to take some books home. But I made a point of really pushing my books because I didn't want to take them. I only had one book. That was the only thing I had some books and I had one t-shirt. And I was splitting a table with my friend, and his book sold out early on Sunday, so he was helping me sell my merchandise. But I was just thinking of my one friend that he travels around from convention to convention and takes nothing with him, except for his binder and his displays. But the actual materials that he sells, he just has printed on the spot. Isn't that nuts?
Mm.
I don't know if like maybe in the future, I mean, I'm still having trouble learning about printing. Like we have a really nice Epson printer. Like it's actually more for like professional photography. So we printed everything at home, and I learned, wow, don't ever print an art print on glossy. That's like art 101, I guess, and I just missed that class. But so we got some really nice matte paper. So we just printed everything at home to keep the cost low. But in the past, like when I very, very first, someone suggested I take some of my art and print it out, like my very first rough stuff. There's a Kinko's in the in Texas Frightmares, or in the Hyatt's downstairs in the basement. So we did print there. I just didn't know a lot. Like I still feel like I need to know more about the colors, like my palette and sizing and what it's going to look like when it's printed before I would feel confident enough doing that, because I just don't know yet what that looks like, because even with our printer, you print in Photoshop and then you print it on the printer and it looks like one color, then you print it with Procreate, the file you made in Procreate, and it looks like a different color. So I would be so scared with my current knowledge base that we would take like a little USB key with us somewhere. One, the USB key wouldn't work. And then two, when I got to that printer, if I'd never used them before, when they print it, what is it going to look like? So I'm sure your friend has that knowledge and experience that they're confident doing that, but that's something I'd have to learn before, and kind of do a test, a dry test run here near me before I would take it somewhere else and do it. But
Well,
I think it sounds like a great idea.
What's nice about some place like Kinko's or Minuteman is that most of the printers are the same.
Yeah.
I always make sure that I talk to my printers ahead of time so that I know what type of printer they're using, because you can
Okay.
get certain effects with some printers. Like some of my prints have a warm black printed on top of a regular black. And so it creates this almost varnish effect, and I create hidden images within the black. But that can only be done with a type of inkjet printer that will print the warm black last. Their other printer, if the print, it would take the file and automatically push all the blacks into a warm black, so there would be no differential when they printed it. It's the same file, it's just the printer is interpreting the data and processing the data differently. So yeah, definitely always know your printer, or at least know what the print machine is. But that's just a matter of taking your stuff to shops and having them print them and see what they can do for you. Now, and as for cost, printing is usually so cheap. Having your own printer, yeah, it's good to use your own printer, simply because if you have a printer, you got to use it in order to get to keep it up and running. I have a friend who's got high-end Epson. He's an architectural photographer, and it's a piece of legacy equipment he had from when he was working. And this printer was a $7,000 printer. And if he doesn't print at least one print a week, the inks will clog, the jets will get gummy, things don't process correctly. So that's his problem. But I forget where I was even going with this train of thought. Help me out, Bill. When I get lost, you usually put me back online.
Printing. I think it was mostly about convention techniques, I think. But
thanks, Bill.
Sorry, I was in my zone.
I.e., you were tuning me out. So what I'm doing right now is I'll go ahead and share my screen. So this is a piece of art that was from a movie knockoff to Alien called Dark Universe. And I have these whites, and you can see that when I move the opacity back and forth, it changes the shininess. And I was just cleaning up the location of some of these. What I'm doing is, here's one, like this little dot right here. Where did that come from? Is it on this layer? It looks like it's on this layer. So what I'm doing is I'm just zooming in and out, looking for little things. Like I don't know what layer that little white speck is on, so I have to hunt around until I find it. Go to that layer and fix it. So I'm just looking for errors right now, little tiny specks that most people wouldn't even care about. Like, look at this white shape right there. I shouldn't care about that white shape. That white shape is perfectly fine as it is. But I'm looking at it and I'm kind of going, oh, I want it to be a more perfect white shape. So I'll just go in and change it a little bit. Then I'm looking at this little differential of this purple hitting this other purple. I'm gonna go, oh, where did that problem happen? I wasn't careful enough when I was drawing, so now I have to figure out what layer that was. Oh, found the layer. Clean that up. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I think this guy, I never got around to, oh, sorry, I gotta answer that. If I hit my stop share and turn off my. So Bill, what are you working on?
I am working on a Sunday strip for next week and pretty much coming along nicely for once. So here, I will show. Oh, until once I'm able to share.
Oh, sorry. Just a moment. There we go. I had it turned off because of the one person who wasn't willing to.
Okay. So anyway, this is what I got so far. It's about 2 hours more of work, I think. And this one went pretty smoothly, mainly because it was mostly a pure action scene. Though I've been starting to make a lot more of these Sunday strips, and provided I have a good game plan going in, they go pretty smoothly, provided I spread them out throughout the week.
It sounds like you're having fun with them.
Yeah. And so with this one, the hardest part was making that network. There's quite a few masks that, and sometimes it's sort of like the having to disable the masks so I can color the people standing behind them easily. Otherwise, it's tedious. But otherwise, as I said, going quite well. And
yeah, I don't envy you doing the net, one of the things I've been watching an anime about volleyball players,
Hmm.
and one of the things that they did with their net was rather than making the strings black,
Yeah.
they just drew them as white instead. And I think you could have gotten away with this because most of your backgrounds, you're going to be putting color in most of your backgrounds.
Yeah.
If you did it as white, then it wouldn't be flattening out the image as much of the characters that have all the black outlines to them.
Hmm.
But
Actually, if I definitely, I'd still have to make the top black, but let's take a look here. Okay, that kind of works.
if you if you duplicated that layer, you could go back in and on the layer that's duplicated, leave the lines for the top and the bottom as black and just uh, erase everything else. And
Ah,
then that way you have the whole grid of white layers underneath if we get where I'm talking about.
yeah.
And you could even that you can't and that strip you have at the top that's holding the top of the net, what does that look like in real life? Is it really that color, or could you also make that white?
Oh, I'd have to look at some more references.
Because I'm looking at that top band and it's competing with the flesh tones that you have going. So maybe if you made that white as well, it would tie in with the strings of the white and people would really get the sense that that's the barrier.
Okay.
And that way you could also go in and add little shadows of either like a little bit of blue to cause a wrinkle or something, but or a shadow. But I think this is I think that's already looking really improved to me. Yeah, that's looking good, Bill. Now back out and take a look and compare that to the other nets that you had, and let's see how it looks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm really liking that.
And let's see while we're
The frame next to it where you have a figure, both faces going on either side.
mm-hmm.
I bet that'll really work well.
Oh, yeah, that does look better. And I'll give everybody back the
So, Bill, I wasn't able to attend the freelance Fandango drawing session on Sunday because I had a commitment online talking with people I went to Japan with back some 40 years ago. Um, was it just you and Stowe, or
No, actually, it was beginning to pick up. We had about 7 people,
wow, that's great.
and 3 of them were new.
So a quick plug, Freelance Fandango is very much like the session we have here, except that's for 2 hours and it's on Sunday and it runs from 10 in the morning to noon Pacific time. With your host is James Stowe for that. I'm glad that turned out so well.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise because for the last month, it's pretty much been me and Stowe having bull sessions.
Oh, was Stan there?
No, Stan has been there in the past.
I know he likes to show up when he can.
I'm just playing with, I have some very nice Prismacolor color pencils. And so I'm just playing with those today, in case anyone's wondering what in the world I'm doing. I'm just goofing off. And this was supposed to be a cat, and now it looks like a French bulldog. So I'm trying to figure out how to rescue it. So that's all I'm doing over here.
Well, I love working with Prismacolors.
Yeah, I do too. I actually think I might be using the wrong paper. I'm not 100% sure because they're not blending as nicely as they usually do. It also could just be I'm tired and I'm doing something wrong, especially since I started out thinking I was drawing a cat. Now it kind of looks like a French bulldog that was on a diet. So but yeah, overall,
it's the shape of the head is a little off for a cat.
Yeah, it's just all over the place. But the other thing is I was reading where, and I'm sure you guys did this when you were more, this is sketch paper, but it's probably more suitable for like charcoal or something. But I'm sure when you guys were just starting out, you did more sketching just to sketch, right?
Mhm.
Or you're not doing it just for, I'm going to make money off of this particular piece. So I'm trying to also just sketch for fun to get better. I don't want to put that pressure on myself that every time I create a piece of art, it's something that it's going to go to a convention or it has to be a certain way, because I feel like that'll stifle me too. And it will make it not fun. But this thing looks like a hot mess, but it's okay. I tend to like alcohol markers the most, but I figured out I got these last year for Christmas, and I just wanted to draw a fall scenery picture so that I can enjoy myself. So it looks, I think I had a French bulldog in my brain, which then made my cat morph into, because I'm thinking about doing that. I think I'm thinking about doing an Empress card as a French bulldog, because French bulldogs are so regal. But I don't know. And I met a French bulldog this weekend. It was just absolutely, she was such a charmer. Oh my God. She just was wagging her little butt all over it because they allow you, believe it or not, to have pets. Like they don't even have to be service pets. I mean, obviously some of these dogs were wearing service dog vests, and I was like, okay, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe that was bought on Amazon. Maybe more of an emotional support service dog. But she was such a sweet little dog, and I was like, oh my God, you're so precious. So she's been on my mind. But definitely not on my mind. Or my mind is definitely not very sharp today from this.
Well, I know what you mean about drawing for pleasure. Because I draw as a professional for several years, I wouldn't draw anything unless there was somebody was paying me for it, let alone myself. And then I realized I had lost the joy and that I wasn't drawing at all unless someone was paying for me. And I went kind of like, well, that's not what I wanted to do. So I went out and I bought about a dozen sketchbooks, and I bought them in all different types of sizes. Some were really small, some were really big. And I put one in each room of the house. And I had a rule that if I was in that room of the house, I had to be holding the sketchbook. I didn't have to be drawing into it. I just had to hold it. But of course, if you're holding on a sketchbook, the next thing you know, you're drawing in a sketchbook. And I just started drawing like crazy. And that's kind of where the whole, I started doing all sorts of cartoons and comics and things, trying to figure out what I wanted to do as far as drawing goes. And then it was on a trip home. I had a small little sketchbook, just big enough for the plane. And I'd been in a bar talking to a friend of mine and saying, hey, Lloyd, I want to draw something, maybe do a new strip. What do you suggest? And he was saying, well, whatever you do, make it something you absolutely love so that you don't fall out of love with it. And he says, what do you love to do? And or what's one of your interests? And I said, well, I love movies. He says, well, why don't you draw a movie review? And I went, oh, that sounds like a fun idea. So on my flight home, I did my first movie review.
Oh, fun.
And it was of a French film called The Last Combat. And I swear no one's seen this film. So yeah, it was just, and I liked drawing it so much. I liked the fact that because I drew it on a plane, I had all these really warbly lines. And I went, and all the edges were hand drawn. I went, wait a minute, this is a great philosophy. Poorly drawn lines and imperfect squares would really lower the bar for me as far as, allow me to relax and just have fun. So that's why I've always hand drawn the lettering. And but yeah, you have to draw for fun. The fact that I've learned to, draw for fun and then also make, turn those drawings into projects or money.
I mean, I've been making a point of doing as much sketching as possible on the road. They work. For some reason, that as far as placebo effect works, I find a old-fashioned sketchbook better still find an old-fashioned sketchbook better for brainstorming than I do the tablet. And also I'm doing my push-ups. So for example, this Saturday, I went to the Asian Art Museum again for a second time since it's been reopened. So this one
I saw your sketch.
Yeah. And a few others were okay. And this one had possibilities. Unfortunately, the museum closed just as I was blocking it out. And I winged by Capitol Hill right afterwards, and there were some rappers performing.
Oh, fun.
Oh, fun. Yeah, hold that up closer to the camera, Bill. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of these motion action pictures, the trick is sort of to block out the pose, any pose, and then add details as you go along.
Well, believe it or not, folks, we are coming close to an hour.
Yep. And if
Alrighty.
anybody is interesting, right after this, the Western region is going to be doing their member spotlight with Rolando Veneg.
So this is the Western region of the Graphic Artists Guild, and they are starting up at 5:30 and running to 6:30. You can go to the Graphic Artists Guild on Eventbrite and still sign up for this right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Venegas.
So he's going to be showing off his work, you were saying?
Yeah. A lot of his stuff is graffiti style. It's quite good.
You know, I had remembered and then I forgot, and I'm glad you reminded me again, because yes,
No
I
problem.
definitely would like to, I will be going from here. Well, since you and I would like to go to that one, and it's in 2 minutes, folks, and Kodar, thanks for joining us this week. I've been really enjoying looking at the kanji type structure influences you have going on the right-hand side. Is that the kanji for bird?
Oh, I can't see. I'm going to see this before we leave.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. There we go. This stupid phone. I do not recommend doing this on your phone. Ooh, yeah.
Calming wind. No, it's calm/no wind.
Okay. I'm going to have to take a look at my kanji. That looks really nice. Anyway, thank everyone. Thanks again, everybody. And I will see you next week for Epic Sketch Time. You can also join us on Monday for Freelance Fandango in person inside Tacoma, or on Sunday from 10 to noon. Bill, real quick, do you have a Cartoonist Northwest meeting this Saturday?
Yes, we do. It's Lynn. It'll be Lynn Hunter, who is a illustrator, artist, and storyboard artist.
Okay. And you can find out about that through Cartoonist Northwest or CNW on Facebook. Bye, everyone.